Okay, so continuing on, um, I was talking in the last video about the medication discontinuation syndrome that I've been having, and how in January of 2015 to April of 2015, I was still feeling bad, basically, still having waves of depression, feeling sad. So the discontinuation syndrome was still there, but I didn't know what it was. So I went to the doctor, and she assumed it was perimenopause. She said it was menopause, and I should increase my Paxil dosage to 20 milligrams. And I said okay, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know it was discontinuation syndrome. And so I did. I went up to 20 milligrams. The next day, it was like something I cannot explain. I felt weird. I mean, really, really weird. And mind you, in the past, I had often felt weird starting my new doses. I'd often felt bad at first, and then I would feel better. Then I would start to feel better. But this was something different. But I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna stick it out because I always feel worse in the beginning. And even though I'd felt strange, I thought that maybe, it would lighten up, and I would start to feel better. But I didn't. And I felt so horrible. I felt so strange that I still don't have the words to adequately describe how I felt. Some of the things that I can say is I felt like I was a light bulb and somebody had turned me on. Like I had electricity throughout my body. I had an urge to do this all the time, 24/7. Like, that was my movement. Like, just wanted to shake my hands and just constant. Another thing that I wanted to do, I would do this weird urge to stretch my face. It was very bizarre, really strange. But I was like that 24 hours a day. I thought I was going to get better. I thought I was waiting for the medication to kick in. They say, it can take 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know that I believe that anymore. But I didn't know that I had akathisia at this point. A lot of it was mental. Just really bizarre. Constant, everyday mental things. It wasn't panic, it wasn't anxiety, it was weird. And I get emotional because I feel I'm completely traumatized by it. I would sit in my bedroom and I couldn't go anywhere. I felt so weird. I felt kind of drunk, but I didn't drink. And kind of like I was tripping on acid. Like, just weird. The best way I can describe is sort of like being in it when have a weird dream and you wake up and you're like, wow, I felt really weird at this dream. It was kind of like that, but all the time. But this was the biggest issue, was that, and I wanted to say, before I upped it to 20 milligrams, my suicidal feelings, those things went away, but I still was feeling weird. Just off, just not good. Like anxious and just strange. But then when I went up to 20, then the akathisia really, it hit. I didn't know what it was, so I was waiting to get better. I went to my doctor, and she's like, just give it some more time. I went to a psychiatrist, and he dismissed it and said it was anxiety. It wasn't anxiety, and I kept trying to tell people. I went to the emergency room. They dismissed it, said I needed to see a psychiatrist. I saw another doctor. He didn't know what was wrong with me. He was, really nice, but he didn't know. But it was akathisia from 20 milligrams of Paxil. And I was stuck in my room for a long time. I will say, for that first 5 months, because from May, when I doubled my dose at the end of April, beginning of May, until September, I stayed like that, just feeling weird. I would have paranoid thoughts that I knew were not right. So it was kind of like being psychotic, but still having your reality checking. So being very aware. I was in my room, and this was another thing. Like, when you have anxiety, you fear things. You fear that you're gonna go crazy, or you fear that, just crazy. You can have all kinds of crazy thoughts. Fear that you're gonna fly out your window. This wasn't that. I felt like I was doing those things. I wasn't fearing that they were going to happen. I was feeling like it was happening. So, like, I'm in my room right now. That's my window right there. I would be laying in my bed, and I would feel physically like I was being sucked out of my window and into the street. I would be standing in the street, and a car would drive by, and I would feel like I was being physically pulled into the breeze of the truck. I mean, just bizarre thought processes were going along with this, and not one time did I feel normal or safe. Like, it was always, I was so afraid all the time. 24 hours a day, I was petrified. I was having ocular migraines, so I was having weird visual stuff going on. And then, like, the hand movements. And that's why I wanted to do a video diary to show people, like, this is what I would lay here. And I was so petrified and so afraid all the time. And, like, when I was laying here, it was like a deer in the headlights. Like, I was so afraid to cry. Like, I couldn't cry. I had other things, like, I couldn't comprehend where I was. Like, I could physically see where I was, but, like, time and space were different. They weren't like normal, like when you have this cognitive map where you can think about where you are spatially. I didn't have that outside of what I could physically, visually see. It's very bizarre. All of these were really bizarre things, horrific, bizarre things that have traumatized me. So in September, I said enough is enough. I still didn't know what was wrong with me. I started reducing my medication very slowly. I wish now that I would have reduced it quicker. But I started very slowly reducing my 20 milligrams, and it took me almost a year to go from 20 milligrams back down to 10 milligrams because my symptoms, I didn't know what was wrong with me. Nobody knew. I went on Surviving Antidepressants website. What everybody says about akathisia is the pacing. I didn't have the pacing, but I felt like a light bulb, and I felt like I was filled with electricity. Like, I felt like somebody had flipped a switch, and I was vibrating almost. Like, every cell was vibrating, and I could sit still, but like the agitation and the mental agitation, like the feelings. I didn't want to live. I wanted to kill myself, and I've never been suicidal. My whole life, the reason why I got on antidepressants was because I was afraid of dying. Death was one of my biggest fears. I had become acutely suicidal during this time. I couldn't handle it anymore. So then I started reducing in September. I started to have episodes, like moments of feeling better, of like the intense buzzing slowing down. But then what happened was that I would get better, and then I would get bad again. And when I would get bad again, it was in December and January of 2015 and into 2016, I became bedridden, actually. I got worse. I got better, and then I got worse. It was horrible. I didn't get back down to 10 milligrams until this past August of 2016. I got down to 10 milligrams, and I've been there. Things have not been easy, but things have gotten better. I don't know if I have to come off of the Paxil at this point or not, because I don't want to go back through discontinuation. The discontinuation, I was having these suicidal thoughts that were like, oh, yeah, you should kill yourself. This is what you should do. Very matter-of-factly, nonchalantly, and those scared me. But the akathisia scares me worse. The fact that I'm getting better, I don't want to rock the boat. I want to try to find a place of stability, but I wanted to show people and tell people my story, because akathisia doesn't look the same for everybody. There are people out there, they do pace, and it is bad, but the mental akathisia, the mental torture, is not the same. My mouth burned too. That was another thing. My eyes were always blurry when I had this akathisia, and my mouth felt like it was on fire. It felt like I drank scalding hot coffee all the time. That was another thing that was very strange. A couple places that I found these symptoms were in Merritt's Neurology, and when they talk about people with Parkinson's disease, having the same mouth burning and things like that. But I just wanted to give somebody out there the idea of what I was going through, because my akathisia is different. I hear people write about akathisia like, oh yeah, I had to move, it was really annoying. It reminds me of, I do have restless leg syndrome, and it reminds me of that. Like, there's no mental component to it, it's just annoying. This was nothing like that. This was mental, and it was horrible. There were other things. I still, I get what I call brain blips. It's sort of like a hiccup in my thought process. And it comes with, sometimes it'll come with this feeling of sadness, of overwhelming fear. That is another thing. There's just this fear connected to it. Constant. It wasn't anxiety. It was just this like horrible, like you're in a nightmare. Like, imagine a really bad dream that you have, and you're living in that all the time. That feeling, that scared feeling that you have in a nightmare, it's there all the time, 24 hours a day, and you don't know why, and you just sit there and you shake, and you have this urge to move and this urge to do strange facial things. My akathisia looked different, and that's why it took forever for me to get diagnosed. I finally did get a psychiatrist. When I told him about it, he said, you have akathisia, you need to come down off your medication, but don't go off of it, because he's worried about me discontinuing and getting discontinuation syndrome, and he's hesitant to put me on another medication just yet. So but I wanted to talk about this because I had a wave today. I had about a minute and a half of feeling like I was back there again today, and it really upset me. Out of the blue, I felt akathisia. I felt just like I haven't felt akathisia and since really intense since last April, so almost a year. But today I felt it. I felt like I was right back there, and it scared me and it upset me. And talking about it does help. Seeing other people talk about it helps. Hearing similar symptoms, I think helps. It helps me, because then I can connect with people, and I understand like that what I have is akathisia. It's not something else. And I don't think writing this is helpful. I think talking about it is more helpful, because then you get a better understanding of what the symptoms are, and what people are going through, how it's feeling, so how it feels. So I have gotten better since reducing. I do have, it does come back still. I'm going to give it a few more months. I don't know if I'm going to try a new medication anytime soon, like Wellbutrin, something that will increase dopamine, but it was horrifying, and it's traumatizing, and everybody's looks a little bit different. Don't think because you're not pacing around that you don't have it, because you really could have it. I didn't get up and pace. I laid in bed and I shook, and sometimes I didn't want to move. I just laid there and felt horror. I felt like I was in hell sometimes. So it doesn't always look the same. It's not as cut and dry as what they say in the medical journals by definition. So I just wanted to share my story, and I will be back posting hopefully on a day when I feel better, because for myself, for my own sake, sometimes when I get bad again, I lose all hope, and I would like to post some hopeful videos too. So thanks for watching and listening.